Hello, welcome to the Daily News Ukraine channel. Today is January 8th and our daily review of news about Ukraine. Ukrainian Marines eliminated 8 Russian invaders over the past day. The press service of the Ukrainian Naval Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported this on Facebook, according to Ukrinform. Military units and squads of the Marine Corps Command of the Ukrainian Navy, which are part of the army groupings, continued to perform tasks to repel the full-scale armed aggression of the Russian Federation. Yesterday, January 7th, the Marines destroyed 8 occupiers, the report says. Artillery units and other teams of Ukraine's Marines inflicted fire damage on the invaders. Enemy final losses are being verified. As earlier reported, from February 24, 2022 to January 8, 2023, the Armed Forces of Ukraine eliminated about 111,170 Russian invaders, including 430 soldiers over the past day. On Christmas Eve, January 6, Russian troops again shelled a thermal power plant run by DTK Group. On Christmas Eve, the invaders once again attacked one of the DTK energy power plants, which had already been subjected to terrorist attacks. Fortunately, no one was injured, the company wrote on Telegram. As a result of the shelling, the equipment at the TPP was damaged. Immediately after the end of the attack, power engineers began to eliminate the consequences. This is the 25th terrorist attack on DTK energy facilities. The company emphasized for safety, only essential employees remain at the enterprises. As reported by Ukrinform, due to the frosty weather on January 8, power supply restrictions were introduced in the regions across Ukraine, which are valid from 9 o'clock to 2400 hours. Russian forces shelled the border area of Sumy region last night. No casualties were reported. Dmytro Zivitsky, head of the Sumy Regional Military Administration, reported this on Telegram according to Ukrinform. The situation at the border as of 9:30 on January 8, 2023. The night in Sumy region was quiet, but around midnight, Russians shelled the Znobnovorodsk community with a self-propelled artillery system. As a result of the shelling, a fire broke out on the territory of a local enterprise. People were not injured, he wrote. As reported by Ukrinform, at night the enemy once again attacked the southern outskirts of Zaporizhia, using cluster munitions. The rockets damaged warehouses and other auxiliary facilities. On January 7, 2 civilians were killed and 9 more were injured in Ukraine as a result of the Russian aggression. Kyrylo Tymoshenko, deputy head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, said this in a post on Telegram, referring to data provided by the regional military administrations, Ukrinform reports. According to him, 1 person was killed and 8 more were injured in Donetsk region. Also, 1 person was killed and another one was injured in Kherson region. As earlier reported, from February 24, 2022 to January 8, 2023, the Armed Forces of Ukraine eliminated about 111,170 Russian invaders, including 430 soldiers over the past day. Recent Russian gains in Soledar do not portend an imminent encirclement of Bakhmut, contrary to claims made by Russian sources. The US-based Institute for the Study of War, ISW, said this in its latest Russian offensive campaign assessment, Ukrinform reports. American analysts noted that even at the most generous interpretation of Russian milblogger narratives, which claim that Russian forces are fighting on the outskirts of Razdolivka, about 6 kilometers northwest of Soledar, Russian forces are still far from being within striking distance of an operational encirclement of Bakhmut. Considering that the recent rate of gains in this area has been on the order of a few hundred meters a day, at most, it is highly unlikely that Russian forces will be successful in cohering a mechanized push towards these Glocks and move towards encircling Bakhmut. Ukrainian forces in Bakhmut would still have Glocks available even if the Russians cut the E-40, moreover, making the entire discussion of an encirclement at this point bizarre, the report said. On January 7, Serhiy Cherevadii, the spokesman for the Eastern Group of Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, said that the cities of Soledar and Bakhmut in the Donetsk region remained under the control of the armed forces of Ukraine. Explosions rang out last night at the hydromash plant in Melitopol, captured by Russian troops. According to Ukrinform, Melitopol Mayor Ivan Fedorov said this in a post on the Telegram messaging app. It was too loud at the hydromash plant, which was captured by the Rashists, where they placed another military base, he wrote. The occupiers smoked so powerfully that the roar lasted for several hours, the blast wave broke the windows of neighboring houses, and plumes of smoke billowed over the factory even in the morning. We are waiting for details on how many orcs and enemy equipment were damaged by smoking, Fedorov said. Russian forces attacked the Kherson region 19 times on January 7 during the so-called Christmas truce. Yaroslav Yanushevich, the head of the Kherson Regional Military Administration, said this in a post on the Telegram messaging app, Ukrinform reports. Russian occupiers shelled the territory of the Kherson region 19 times. They fired artillery, MLRS, mortars, tanks, and used UAVs. Due to the attacks of the occupiers, civilian infrastructure in the settlements of the Kherson and Berislav districts was damaged, he wrote. He added that one person had been injured in Russian shelling. Russia's military and political leadership is faced with a dilemma regarding the choice of which part of the front to give priority to defense, northern Luhansk region or Zaporizhia. The UK Ministry of Defence said this in its latest intelligence update published on Twitter, Ukrinform reports. According to the update, the way Russia has worked on improving defenses suggests commanders are highly likely preoccupied with the potential for major Ukrainian offensive action in two sectors, either in northern Luhansk region or in Zaporizhia. At the same time, British intelligence notes, a major Ukrainian breakthrough in Zaporizhia would seriously challenge the viability of Russia's land bridge linking Russia's Rostov region and Crimea, whereas Ukrainian success in Luhansk would further undermine Russia's professed war aim of liberating the Donbass. Read also, Armed Forces of Ukraine repel enemy attacks near 16 settlements. Deciding which of these threats to prioritize countering is likely one of the central dilemmas for Russian operational planners, the update said. Russian forces launched 7 missile strikes on Kramatorsk and 2 on Koshtantinivka in the Donetsk region on January 7. Pavlo Kirilenko, the head of the Donetsk Regional Military Administration, said this in a post on Telegram, describing the operational situation in the region. After midnight, the enemy fired 7 missiles at Kramatorsk and 2 at Koshtantinivka. An educational institution, an industrial facility and garages were damaged in Kramatorsk, and an industrial zone was damaged in Koshtantinivka. Fortunately, there were no casualties, he said. At the same time, Kirilenko noted that in the Donetsk direction, the Russians were most active in the Kurakov community. In particular, they damaged heating networks in Kurakov, 3 private houses in the village of Kurakivka, outbuildings in Vovchenka, and 2 houses and a summer kitchen in Ostrovsk. According to Kirilenko, the shelling of Marinka continued throughout the night, and in the morning, Avdiivka was hit with Grad multiple launch rocket systems. There are no casualties. The Russian Federation may offer Ukraine a Korean scenario for the truce, which would mean the division of the country. Alexei Danilov, the Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, said this on Ukraine's television, Ukrinform reports. We are currently being offered the Korean scenario. The so-called conditional 38th parallel. Here are Ukrainians, but their Ukrainians are not like that. The Russians will now invent anything. I know for sure that one of the options they can offer us is the 38th parallel, Danilov said. According to him, Dmitry Kozak, deputy head of the Russian presidential administration, meets with former politicians in Europe and conveys through them the message that the Russians are ready to make concessions in order to fix the current status quo and force Ukraine to a truce. At the same time, Danilov said that during a recent meeting, Korean representatives noted that establishing the division of the Korean peninsula into 2 parts along the 38th parallel was a mistake, as the concessions made in the 1950s after the end of the war between North Korea and South Korea are currently leading to problems. Today we were talking about those news. Ukrainian Marines eliminate 8 Russian invaders in past day. Russians shell one of Ukrainian thermal power plants on Christmas Eve. Enemy strikes community in Sumy region last night. Russian forces kill 2 civilians, injure 9 more in Ukraine over past day. No threat of imminent encirclement of Ukrainian troops in Bakhmut ISW. Explosions recorded at plant in Russian-occupied Melitopol, Fedorov. Enemy shells Kherson region 19 times on January 7. Russia preparing for Ukrainian offensive in 2 sectors, UK intel. Kramatorsk hit by 7 Russian missile strikes. Danilov says Ukraine being offered Korean scenario for truce.